Okay, so this is going to be a weird kind of video. There's a very specific kind of information that I feel is being presented in this article, but I wanted to go out there and cover this because it was an interesting enough idea that I thought was worth discussing, and it comes to us via the new piece on thefourthperiod.com by David Pagnotta. This was from yesterday, and it's linked in the description. The title of the piece talks about how clubs in the NHL are stalking the San Jose Sharks. And if you scroll down into the body of the piece, it goes over a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it says here at the bottom that the Maple Leafs have an interest in San Jose Sharks defenseman Mario Ferraro and forward Luke Kunin. And the Leafs are also more likely to move a first-round pick for an asset with term. Including a first-round pick in a package could be of interest to both clubs. I'd also throw in the Oilers in the mix for both players as well. In either Toronto or Edmonton's case, a contract or two would have to go back to San Jose to make the finances work. Now that is a pretty particular comment, and it's one that you have to sort of analyze a little bit before you really understand what it means. The entire past few weeks, we've had a bunch of word from different insiders around the NHL that for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they would probably not want to make a trade with their first-round pick. They have their 2024 first. They don't have their 2025 first that was traded away last year in the Jake McCabe trade. But if you go over to the Maple Leafs and their drafting history, their first-round pick the past few years has been traded away. You've got rentals coming in. You've got a limited amount of guys taken in the first round of the NHL Draft with Toronto's firsts. So the idea that has been proclaimed by a few insiders on a bunch of TV programs and podcasts is that Toronto is kind of uncomfortable with that. They'd say, hey, we kind of need prospects, so let's just keep our first-round pick this year. We would probably not want to trade it away. But that conversation is a little bit different when you're talking about Mario Ferraro of the San Jose Sharks, as well as Luke Kunin. Now, this is interesting because when it comes to Ferraro in particular, Pagnotta makes a point to note that Ferraro does have a contract that extends beyond this season. He is signed till 2025-2026, making $3.25 million a year, and that is a pretty reasonable dollar amount for a guy who's able to play in the way that Ferraro plays. He has been one of these shot-blocking monsters in the NHL. It's crazy. The guy just seems to be one of the top guys in that aspect. He's always putting his body on the line. He's a physical, defensively minded defenseman, and this season he's got 14 points in 51 games played. Not to mention the fact that he's pretty young, too, at just 25 years old. Mario Ferraro is one of these guys that could be seen as a lot more of a versatile player. And even if he's only 5'11", 185, he plays a lot bigger than that. He is such a gamer, and Pagnotta's making a point to say, hey, because he has term, because this is not just a quote-unquote rental player, and because he could be available, this is the kind of trade that the Toronto Maple Leafs would be interested in shelling out a first-round pick for. For Luke Kunin, the other guy that's talked about here, his contract goes on till the end of this season. He's signed at $2.75 million, but because this would be a rental, maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs would not be seeing too much value within it. Same thing could be said about the Edmonton Oilers. We've seen the Oilers getting involved in trade conversations, but when it comes to Edmonton being interested in a guy like Mario Ferraro, yeah, that makes sense to me too. I mean, the Leafs and the Oilers have been paired with a lot of other players, a lot of the same players this year in the NHL's trade world. Everybody's talking about Chris Tanev and all these other guys, and defense, shutdown players, so Mario Ferraro fits the bill in that same sort of mold. But it is interesting to me that, according to Pagnotta, this is one of the only players that the Oilers or the Leafs would be interested in trading a first-round pick away for. We had other rumors from, I think it was Chris Johnston, if it may not have been the Elliot Friedman crew, but we had other words saying that because the Maple Leafs have such an unwillingness to trade away their first-round pick for a rental, they weren't willing to give the Calgary Flames what it was that the Flames want for Chris Tanev. They want a first, but apparently the Leafs were not willing to do that. So we'll see if that first-round pick actually does end up getting on the move, and if it goes over to San Jose for that Mario Ferraro. Same thing could be said in Edmonton because, I mean, look, Ken Holland may not be. You could debate this in the comment section below. He could be in a position where he needs to really make something happen. He could be fighting for his job here, fighting for his Edmonton Oilers life, because McDavid and Draisaitl are still in their primes, and you still need to get these guys a Stanley Cup victory, so is Mario Ferraro the guy to go out there and help you out? He's never played in the playoffs before. He hasn't had any success with the San Jose Sharks in terms of their season because, I mean, he joined them after they went to the finals in 2019. So for Mario Ferraro, he's one of these under-the-radar guys that I think really needs to get more eyes on him. It is kind of vindicating, you know, honestly, like, as a fan of Mario Ferraro myself, it's kind of funny to see that this is the guy that the Toronto Maple Leafs and Oilers would be willing to shell out that first-round pick for. He was such an underrated guy heading into the season, and now he's being noticed for that shot-blocking ability. Honestly, there are a bunch of guys in the NHL this year that have exhibited similar things, like Nick Seeler in Philadelphia. I cannot shut up about that guy. He is such a defensively-minded guy as well. And, of course, Chris Tanev is always going to be in that mix because he is Chris freaking Tanev. He's been linked to Toronto for years. Like, seriously, even back when Tanev was a member of the Vancouver Canucks, we still made videos back in 2018 talking about Tanev getting traded over to Vancouver, or not Vancouver, excuse me. That's nowadays. Getting traded over to Toronto, and we had this entire conversation about, like, Tanev and Liljegren and whether or not that was actually a thing, and, like, Tanev's worth more than just Liljegren because, hey, everybody was talking about Liljegren's name in trade rumors in the Toronto scene in 2018. That was such a weird time period. But 6 years later, we're still talking about the same guys and the same teams. So if you're a fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Edmonton Oilers, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about the idea of trading for San Jose Sharks defenseman Mario Ferraro? This is a guy who is signed till 2026. This is a guy who's making $3.25. He's a very capable and very good player for the dollar amount, and he may be one of the only assets that your teams, according to David Pagnotta, would be interested in trading a first-round pick for. If you do make a trade for a guy like Mario Ferraro, what is the other player going back in the deal to make the salary work? Take your pick. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you're a San Jose Sharks fan, what are your thoughts on the first-round picks of the Oilers or the Leafs? Would you be interested in getting that, and what other player on their teams? Let me know in the comments what that player is going to be, and as well, what do you think the value for a Ferraro truly is in the market? Because if a team is willing to pay whatever a team's willing to pay, that kind of sets the price, right? Do you think it's fair for a guy like Mario Ferraro? Do you think he should be going for a little bit more? Luke Cunnin is also a conversation we could have too, but I didn't want to focus too much on him because he is technically a rental. But for Mario Ferraro, signed on till the end of 2 seasons from now, there is a lot of value in the profile that he possesses as a shot-blocking, defensively-minded force. So, Oilers fans, Leafs fans, the comment section is your floor. The link to the article that we had read is also going to be in the description. It has a bunch of other things surrounding other different trade rumors. And I mean, look, it's David Pagnotta. You're kind of familiar with the format at this point. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Mario Ferraro situation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.